how can we help police and the community as of now with the government's role? The government's role as governor, let me say it like this. As governor, I would make sure that everyone needs to understand how necessary it is. And with those, the police chief, with the mayors, the community, the citizens, understanding how, again, my favorite word right now through all of this is accountability. That once the community understands that police are being held accountable, when communities are now beginning to understand who the bad actors are and are pointing them out, I think that once both sides begin to witness that we're doing our part, you do your part of making sure that the problematic police are being dealt with in the same ramifications as anybody else that commit crimes, I think that's going to cause a greater level of camaraderie where the community and the police force can come together. But where there's no accountability, when the community cannot see and have any transparency of what's going on, I think it's going to be a stalemate. But once that happens, where there's transparency, accountability on both sides, I think then we'll see a greater level of harmony and community justice.
I think that transparency and accountability are essential for public trust in the criminal justice system. I support our law enforcement officers. I don't think that we should defund the police. They do incredibly challenging work, and they need the support of the community to fulfill their primary mission of public safety. We ask our officers to do a lot more that is just not part of that mission. They're expected to be frontline mental health professionals, to deal with drug abuse and addiction, to intervene in situations just not suited for law enforcement. We need government to fulfill those other community needs so that our police officers can focus on public safety. And there does need to be strong community oversight. For instance, the Kansas City should have local control over the Kansas City Police Department. I think that's a critical accountability tool because when government is closer to the people, it is more accountable. And look, I think we all recognize that across our state and in Kansas City, our communities are facing an epidemic of violent gun crime. Jefferson City has failed our biggest cities by not addressing the biggest issue of all, the availability of illegal guns and the ease at which criminals can acquire them. I believe that addressing violent crime, reducing homicides and violence, demands taking up common sense gun safety reforms that reduce the ability of criminals to access those guns in the first place. I've actually recently released a multi-part plan to address reforms in our criminal justice system, but also broader reforms that I believe will increase community empowerment and economic opportunity. We're on a long road to change, and there's things that we can do immediately to address these concerns, but also things that need to happen over a long period of time to really address this, and that's part of the plan that I have released. Specifically on law enforcement, I believe that we should restore local control over the Kansas City Police Department to the people of Kansas City. I think that we should institute a review of peace officer training to ensure that all Missouri law enforcement training includes best practices in community policing and implicit bias and de-escalation training. We should give independent oversight boards subpoena power to investigate use of force and conduct violations, including deadly use of force incidents. And another thing on this plan that I've released is requiring the use of body camera devices, with those devices being activated from beginning to end of all interactions with suspects or with witnesses.
One particular thing that I'm in agreement with, and I heard this on the national level and then with the sheriff forte, is that police officers no longer can be problematic in one department, be removed, whether they're fired, whether they say they want to resign, and relocate to another place. I think that once this national database is implemented and gives all police departments, all police chiefs and sheriffs accessibility to this person where they come from, I think in light of that, we begin to see a better response, because now with cameras, with people visually witnessing, as we did with George Floyd, the officer resting his knee on his neck, looking right into a camera as if, you know, I'm going to get away with this again. Once that level of accountability, and I don't know if it came from other places, but once other officers witnessed that this type of behavior will no longer go on without due process, I think then we'll begin to see a better life in every city, especially in the state of Missouri.